Hi, I'm Fairy Tiger. I'm what you may call a sweat or a pro player in Cursed fulfillment of all desire. And in this video, I'll be sharing with you my current updated settings to help you familiarize yourself with the game and become a bona fide sweat yourself. As a quick background checkup, I've been playing this game since March 2020 and I've consistently placed top 25 on the diamond solo leaderboards as well as diamond across all the other game modes as well, and also had the highest KD in top 10 solos diamond leaderboards for the past 2 seasons, not counting the existing previous league season which only exists as a result of a delay and only lasted for about 2 weeks, with a lot of the prominent player base not partaking as they had left the game to try out other games, including yours truly. I've also competed in several community tournaments and won quite a bit, and as you can clearly see, I own the quote-unquote pro player skin which I got without teaming, abusing a leaderboard flaw that allows ranking up by quitting a ton of matches, and using controller mods, keyboards, or any form of BS cheating mechanic for that matter. Roll the clip. Before we start this video, I'd like to thank all my subs, especially my OGs who have been extremely patient in waiting on this particular setup video for a very long time. As many of you may be aware, I've had this setup as far back as the Heaven's Wrath update, and me being the perfectionist that I am, I've been constantly tuning it and tweaking it to make it as tactical as possible. Looking at how the new update implemented more actions to be mapped and practically threw off everyone's keybinds in the process, this video couldn't have come at a better time. Alright, so let's head right into my settings. First, we'll just glance through options, graphics, sound. The only thing you may need to change here is the ambient volume, which includes environmental volume into your feed, which many of you may not like, so you turn that down to 0. I just like a tad bit of it, so I have it on 1, I think, and gunfire has to be on max. Game, FOV, voice chat. Let's head into why everyone is here. Controls. Alright, so here I'm going to be explaining each sensitivity and what it does, and the only thing I highly suggest everyone does is to turn down aim acceleration down to 0. What aim acceleration does is put a drag on your aim, and if you're trying to be the best you can be, I highly suggest you turn that down to 0. Everything here is strictly preferential, but what you may need to stabilize is your aiming speed, and then everything else is a multiplier. So what's aiming speed? Aiming speed is your main sensitivity in the game. This is like your core sensitivity. Everything else is based off a multiplier on that. Aiming mode sensitivity multiplier. This is basically the multiplier you get when you ADS. As you can see, it's on a point, so it basically multiplies this to make it lower. So third person view mode sensitivity multiplier 2.3 multiplies this a lot faster. First person mode, same thing as well. So in this game you have first and third person mode. These are two different modes, and first person mode and aiming mode sensitivity multiplier are not the same thing. I have so many friends who have the misconception of it being the same. They are not. ADSing is different from you being in first person, so be sure to have your sensitivities in ADS and first person vary. Now the new one here is the vehicle mode sensitivity multiplier, which is the sensitivity multiplier you get when you're in vehicles. This allows you to tune the speed you turn your camera when you're in a vehicle. And my dead zone usually 10%, right stick dead zone 5%. Aim assist, of course, it has to be on. Vibration, every vibration is off. Alright, so please from here on out follow me step by step, as there are bugs in the button setup, and if you don't, you're gonna have issues, and I wouldn't be replying to messages on issues with the button setup because I'm going to follow them step by step, and I expect you to do the same. Don't screen grab and jump to tallying it because you will have problems. So this is Future Tiger here, and apparently past me forgot to add the fact that in this video you'll be utilizing the button setups of fast press and on hold to make one button perform 2 different actions when it is pressed once and when it is held. So you can have a button that's on fast pressed performing one function, and the same button when you hold it, it performs a totally different action. Alright, let's get back into the video. So for movement and jump, don't change anything, they are going to be the same. For sprint, Don't change it, don't clear it. All you have to do is press button setup and then put it on fast press. If you do clear it, for whatever reason, it will make it a hold to run instead of a tap to sprint. If you get what I mean, it makes it a hold to sprint instead of a tap to sprint. So all you have to do here is not to clear it. If you do clear it, you're gonna have that issue of it holding. I stress this again, do not clear it. All you have to do is select button setup and you move on from there. For crawl, you can clear it, put down L3, same here. Crouch, L3. Remember, crawl is on hold, crouch is on L3. What this does is allow me to sprint when I move forward and then crouch when I stop. So if I don't move forward and I click my L3, he crouches, and when I hold it, he crawls. Vehicle steer, the same. Vehicle throttle or brake. When you go into it, map the axis, move your left analog stick up and down. What this does is allow you to drive your vehicle without using the R2 or L2. So when you move backwards, the car moves backwards. When you move forward, it moves forward. This should be the same. Vehicle brake, which is also the same. Handbrake, L1. So it's future me again, and I'm just here to clarify that the handbrake is a new button that's been added to Cuisine Royale. This allows you to drift if it isn't obvious already. And before, I used to think it was the vehicle throttle or brake till I kept tweaking and realized that wasn't it. So now we have a drifting button. Ship and steer, left and right. Ship throttle, same thing. Go into it, set the axis to left analog stick up and down, and that should map it. Vehicle ship throttle, R2. Ship brake and reverse, L2. Next we have my weapon setup. So for shooting, I use R2, aiming L2 fast press, aiming 2 R2 double tap. Let me explain the difference between the two for you. So for aiming 1, the gun is this close, and for aiming 2 is this far. So this is the difference between the two. And I use the other one, the aiming 2, for especially when people are trying to rush me with melee and I want the ADS. Usually I could shoot without ADS in, but sometimes it does help for me to ADS. So I double tap it and I hold, and then it brings the gun this further back so I can have a much more open view and laser whoever is rushing me with melee. So for zoom, L2, breath holding, L1. I prefer this over all others. It makes it much more tactical and is a lot better to use. Gun, reload, square, toggle rifle, grenade launcher, circle on hold. Weapon 1, weapon 2, no need to map. Weapon 3 is your sidearm, so you have that on circle fast press. Weapon 4 is your melee weapon, triangle on hold. Next main weapon, triangle. Remember, when you're swapping weapons, you don't need to have you don't need to cycle through. You could just double tap it and goes directly to your second weapon. So there's no need for you to map the next main weapon or anything like that. Just cycle through with a double tap. The game reads it as your second weapon when you double tap. Melee, this is not needed. I don't use this for melee. I use it for picking up grenades. I have it set up to the same button I have my throw grenade on. So when I throw a grenade, right, I rush over to it and I pick it up and throw it back out again with the same button. I don't use it for melee. I use it for picking up grenades. So anytime I hold R1, it will always prioritize the throwing the grenade over the meleeing. It will only melee when you no longer have grenades in your armory. So as you can see, I no longer have grenades, and now it melee. Next grenade type, L1 plus square on fast press. How you map two buttons is as follows. You hold the first button down and you tap the second button. You just tap it whilst you're still holding the first button. And now they added activate action when any of these buttons are released, which makes it work when you tap both of them at the same time when you are in game. Before, you needed to hold the first button and tap the second, which still works much more better than the tapping both. But now you can tap both and it will cycle through for you. Zeroing in distance and increase zeroing in and decreasing, don't need it. Firing mode, circle and hold. Alright, next up we have viewing. Over here we utilize the touchpad on the PS4. So for the Xbox guys, don't worry, after this we have a small workaround to help you with some of the keys here. So for toggle view, again you have a combo button. In order to combo buttons, you hold down the first button and then tap the second button when you're mapping it. Also, now we have this, which allows it to work when you tap both of them at the same time simultaneously. Before, you needed to hold down the first button and tap the second for it to work 100% of the time, but now you can just tap both and it will work 100% of the time. So be sure to take this button and take advantage of that. Viewing. So it's future me back again for one last time. So I'm here to clarify a bug that exists in the game. So if you are setting a button and it has modifiers and axes, you need to set the axis first and then you follow up with a modifier. For whatever reason, there's a bug that still exists till this day, that when you set the axis before you set the modifier before you set the axis and go back, it clears the modifier. So be sure to set the axis first and then you set the modifier. Modifier, touchpad and axis, you move the right analog stick clockwise or anti-clockwise anywhere you want. Sensitivity 4, extra dead zone 0, non-linearity 1, the rest is default. Aiming delta, we don't use that. And leaning, touchpad, left analog stick left and right, and for dead zone 40%, non-linearity 1. The reason why I have it this way is so when I press the touchpad for any other button and I mistakenly touch my left analog stick, it doesn't lean, so it needs to be all the way pressed down for it to lean this way. For Xbox, unfortunately for viewing, I haven't been able to wrap my head around figuring out a button combo that will work for viewing, but for leaning you could just map the left analog stick to left and right and it will work just fine. Or you can add a modifier as an O, and anytime you hold O or B, that is, you move the left analog stick left and right and he will lean, but preferably keep it on the left and right only if you want to lean on Xbox. So for the PS4 players who are wondering how I use the touchpad for this, first off, you can't use your thumb to press down on the touchpad and then utilize the R or the L depending on which thumb you decide to use. But if you want to use it tactically, there's a point at the top of the touchpad which meets your index finger. When you stretch it down from the L1 or R1, you can easily press down on that just like the way you press down on the L1 or R1, and then you can use the L and R with your thumbs still on your thumbsticks. Alright, so for vehicles, I have seat 4 on R3, change seat in vehicle X, fast press, take the wheel L3. Now I'm going to explain why I have this mapped. A lot of you may not know, when someone tries to get into your car, they always end up on this seat, right? So immediately someone gets into your car, all you have to do is click RT, which switches you to seat 4, and then melee them. I've done this to so many players in the game. It's a quick way to outplay players who try to be pirates by hopping into your car to try to melee you. So the minute someone hops into your car, all you have to do is this, and then click L3 to take the wheel again, and you're done with them. Alright, so take the wheel L3, vehicle repair, directional button up, shoot R2, aiming on the right analog stick in all directions. Switch ammo type, I haven't used it yet, but it's better to be prepared for it, so I have it on triangle and hold. And zoom L2, horn L3, next gear right, next gear left, neutral gear R1. Automatic transmission on hold, right D-pad on hold. This allows you to switch your vehicle from a manual to automatic standpoint, and that's why you have all the gears to mapped. So anytime I hold right D-pad, it switches from manual to automatic for me. As you can see at the top, I think the center left corner of the screen, there's transmission, gear, RPM and speed. So from there you can see whether your car is in manual or in auto. So AT for automatic and then MT for manual. So in manual, when you're in manual, use the left and right D-pad to switch between gears like I'm doing now. So you can switch between all that to get to reverse, neutral, gear 1, gear 2, gear 3. which makes the car keep moving. It's insane. You guys should really mess around with this. It's practically one of the best features we've added to the game so far. Let's get back to the setup. Yeah, and I think that's about it for vehicles. So for the juicy part, the part most of you have been waiting for, my ability setup and draw sign, etc., which all exist in other. So for recover, I use square. Use, I use square. Fast press. Push objects, L1. Yes, this is new, and now you can actually push vehicles like boats and cars, as you can see me do here. Yes, you can do that. It's more effective on boats than it is on cars. So how you do that is map the push object button, and mine is on L1. Pick up, square, fast press. Pick up and replace, square on hold. Medkit, up, fast press. Drop gun, triangle plus O. So you hold triangle and tap O. So you need to press down on your triangle and then tap on O. And also, don't forget to add this so that when you press both at the same time it works, and you don't need to have to press the first button and then tap the second one for it to work. So this is going to make it a lot easier for you to use the combo buttons. Switch boombox radio station, L1 plus L2 plus R1. Switch boombox off and on, L2 double tap. These two are preferential, but I use them in combat, so you may say they are advantageous depending on how you use them. Show gesture, this is also very preferential. I use it to throw when I switch to my sidearm, so it's now on O. And use ability R3. Use sign R3 on fast press. So use ability is on hold, and then they use the sign, which is the new other ability that just came in. As you can see on the bottom side of the screen, there's a new icon next to the character's main ability. That's your use sign now. That's like the second ability for the character. So be sure to set that on R3 on fast press, and then use ability on hold. So I use my R3 for both R3, the same R3 for ability and use sign. Is just differentiated from pressing it once and holding it in. Draw sign 1. These two are going to be your rituals, so these don't actually need to be too fast like the rest, so you can keep them on hold. So draw sign 1 is directional button up on hold. Draw sign 2 directional button right on hold. Draw sign 3 L1 fast press. Draw sign 4 R1 fast press. Draw sign 5 left fast press. So these are your traps, so you need them to be fast and as tactical as they can be. So all these are tactical, just these are going to be very minusculely slow. Now, so for interface, for the Xbox guys on map, what you need to do is change the touchpad that I put on here to left directional D-pad on hold. But on PS4 we follow as goes. So this is default. Map touchpad on double tap. Inventory, I think this is default. Show pie menu, this is what is different. I use down as my show pie menu instead. It's a lot faster to access than pressing it on up. So put it on down D-pad on fast press. Boombox menu, L1 plus down on fast press. This allows you to access the boombox menu directly instead of having to go into the pie menu to do so. So instead of doing that, you can just do this instead. And be sure to have the new button ticked, which will allow you to press both at the same time, and you don't need to press and hold the first button then tap the second button to work. So now you can just press both at the same time. Quick chat down on hold. Hint item for teammates, which is virtually your pinging in this game. Right D-pad on fast press. Mark enemies, L2 plus right D-pad on fast press. Also don't forget to have this, as it's very integral now. Alright, so I think this is default, and I think that wraps it up, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it improves your game drastically, and please, if this video helped you out in any way, please be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to support the channel. It's been your boy Fairy Tiger here. Have a great one.
Listen.